So in my last video, I said that I was probably going to finish the book before this video happened, but this is a midweek emergency update because the interludes just before part 5 are amazing. And I feel like I always say this, but there's one in particular that blew my mind. So I really wanted to quickly talk about it before we get this craziness at the end. And it will get overshadowed by that. So let's talk about the interlude. And there were 3 interludes, but one is much more important than the others, in my opinion. So we get an interlude of Taravangian. And Taravangian is the person, the king, who it became apparent at the end of the last book had the Oath Stone for Zeph and was able to manipulate him into this grand chess game of killing the leaders of several different locations. And we just assumed, or I just assumed, that he was vying for power. But what becomes apparent is that the Night Watcher, and she is involved so much in this story, and I can't wait to meet her. So many people's, probably the most interesting people's gifts and curses all come from her. So of course our main characters have to meet her eventually, and I'm sure they're gonna receive a boon and a curse. So yeah, so Taravangian has met her, and his boon and curse, it would seem, is that he wakes up each day with a different mental capacity. And one of those days, in the not so distant past, it would seem, in the last like 5 to 10 years definitely, he woke up with an intellect beyond, a capacity beyond anything anybody could possibly imagine, and he created the diagram. And I think it's fair to say this is at least 5 years old because it stems from the death of Gavilar. And in this diagram, he essentially, I don't know exactly what he mapped out, obviously, but it looks like he's just mapped out how to save this world, I think. But it wasn't mentioned as to how wide the plan goes. Does he know of the Cosmere? Potentially. It seems like this intellect is far beyond anything that anyone else could have in this Cosmere. So maybe he figured out about the different worlds in the Cosmere, how they link up, and this is just phase 1. That would be the most exciting. And with this diagram, he is playing chess on a world scale and looking to drive the world, at least this world, maybe other worlds, into the direction that he wants. And it's just marvelous. He talks about Molach and another of these like demon-like creatures, and I'm just assuming that these are the Spren, the large Spren. Like we have the Windfather, who I assume is a Spren, Night Watcher, who I assume is a Spren, another one. I'm sure there's more of these, and they come from the Almighty, I would guess. But Odium must have his own as well. And he is under the impression, and he knows a lot more than me because of his high level intellect, especially on the day he drew the diagram. And he thinks that Spren is responsible for the death rattles that he was observing as people were dying, in a little glimpse into the future. So that's really exciting. And the reason I was so excited about this, and I don't know if you were as excited about this one as me. Maybe you were like, oh, that's a cool interlude and moved on. But for me, this is game changing because I love these types of characters. So if you've seen the movie Watchmen, I think his name is Adrian, the character that is just way more intelligent than everybody else. And he has everything laid out, or she has everything laid out perfectly. And everyone's just living in their world. It's their world and they're just living in it. So a good example of this would be Adrian from Watchmen. And then also there was a series I used to read when I was younger called The New Heroes. I don't think it was very popular in the US. I don't think it was even that popular in the UK. Just about these new generation of kids and the independent superpowers. But there was a character called Victor Cross, and he essentially was the main villain across the entirety of the story. And his superpower was super intelligence, and he just played everybody like a fiddle. And it's just so much fun to read. Even like the movie Limitless, for example, when he's taking the enhancements and the world just makes so much sense to him. He's so smart. He utilizes his brain. I suppose that just always really appealed to me as a storyline. Like, I suppose the idea of someone playing chess with the world and winning is just very appealing, right? Because oftentimes in the world it feels like you've got no idea what's going on and you're like the smallest fish in the biggest sea, because you are, and it's very normal that you're not able to control everything around you. That's part of life. But the idea of somebody who is able to push and pull and change things on a vast scale, I love those types of storylines, which is why I was so excited about this, but how long can this plan of his last for? We've already seen some things change. So we've seen that Kaladin wasn't in his plans, although he very quickly guessed from where Kaladin may have come, which was the bridge teams. So how long will this plan continue in that direction? I don't know. We also seem to get confirmation that Jasnah faked her death, and if that's the case, I knew it. I knew it. If you don't get a body in fantasy, or most books to be fair, or even movies, then they're not dead. And that's why I'm confident that Jasnah wasn't. And I might be making a fool of myself. Maybe I misinterpreted this interlude, but it appeared like he said that Jasnah faked her death. Why would she do that? I actually have no idea. I haven't thought on it. Potentially, I thought she just faked her death to avoid those trying to kill her. But why had she not reappeared and shown herself? Well, maybe this is a massive advantage over the Ghost Bloods for her to, for them to think that she's dead. And that actually makes a lot of sense, so that would be my guess. We also get some very interesting information about Honorblades vanishing. And he says, Taravangian, or potentially his assistant says, that there were only 7 currently in the location. So why 7? Not sure, but I think Shalorn has one now. I think Zeph has one, and then I also think that Town bought one with him as well when he kind of came back to the world. So that's the 3 missing. The other 7, I have no idea how it works, but I think that might be the treasure trove that Amaram is going after. And he also mentions that the Honorblade itself seems to give some abilities, so it seems to give the ability of regrowth. But Kaladin seems to have regrowth. Does he have regrowth? I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong there. Like, he obviously can heal himself, but I think that's not regrowth. Regrowth seems to be what the lady and her like spindly Spren did in the previous load of interludes, and I've already forgotten their names. But was it Lift and Windle? So they had regrowth, but I don't remember her having an Honorblade. So it's just interesting. More added to the plot. So we now know that Zeph is going to attack Dalinar. He has to. He's just been sent back there by Taravangian. And do I want Zeph to complete his mission? Or do I want Dalinar or someone else to somehow stop Zeph? Of course, I want Dalinar to live. And what that means is that Taravangian is going to have to adapt his diagram and adapt his game plan, and that will be even more fun to read, because it sounds like they're doing some adaptations as they go. It sounds like the diagram was drawn out a long time ago, like I said, at least 5 years from my guesstimate. So the more he has to adapt it, the more fun it's going to be. But I do hope that, I mean, they made it pretty clear from his conversation with him and his assistant or aide or whoever that person is, it's extremely unlikely that he will ever reach that level of capacity, mental capacity, that when he drew the diagram. But if he could have a day that's somehow close to it, that would be an interesting read. If I could read from his perspective that day, that would be incredible. I'm praying that we get that inside one of these books. Another bombshell is that he spoke with Gavilar and he believed in him, and the diagram is kind of, he used his mental capacity to try and solve the problem that Gavilar brought to him. Does he know that Dalinar's getting these kind of visions as well? I mean, I would guess so. He seems to know a lot from the Shattered Plains, but he can't know everything, right? Because he doesn't have the same level of intelligence as he did when he drew the diagram. So what does it all mean? I have no idea. It just means that he definitely believed in Gavilar, and did he order the death of Gavilar? Is there a small chance that that's the case? My gut says no. My gut says no. Because the Parshendi seem to have admitted to hiring Zeph, but it's very out of character for them, isn't it? I don't know. I'm not sure. And I'm ending a lot of these with I don't know, because I haven't had that much time to think about it. I just read this, and if I reread it, I'll probably get a lot more answers, because there was so much in there, but I just couldn't believe it. It's one of the best I've read. Easily the best interlude so far, and maybe some of the most I've enjoyed, because the implication for the rest of the book is so big. So a couple of things that would be very interesting based on this. Number one, any conversation between Wit, who I believe either have some kind of ability to see the future or some kind of ability to make an effect on the strings of like what's going to happen. I don't think he has full time travel, but he's just in so many important moments all the time. So a conversation between Wit and Taravangian, hopefully Taravangian with, you know, some high intellect on that day, that would be such a fun conversation. So I'd be all the way in for that. Another thing is, what if someone else gets their hands on the diagram? The Ghost Bloods, for example. What happens next? Or even our heroes, if they get their hands on it, what do they think of it? Like, how do they, what happens next, basically? So if the Ghost Bloods get their hands on it, then obviously they're just going to try and turn around what's happened and try and block it in all corners. But if enough people see this diagram, then it changes everything, because they now know what the end goal is. And do we know what the end goal is of Taravangian? No, we know it's kind of linked with the end goal of Gavilar, and we believe that was good, but a lot of bad stuff has to happen before the good stuff. So it's very juicy. It's very juicy. But there were 2 more interludes, so we'll briefly cover those as well. So we have Lahn, Lhan. He is an Ardent back in Kholinar, I believe it is, and it's Elokar's wife that is kind of the topic of conversation. This young Ardent comes, and she seems to be very pure, and this could have been a full book on its own, you know, the idea of it anyway. Essentially, the Ardents have become fat and lazy, and the ideals have slipped through their fingers of who they wanted to be and what they really should stand for, and she doesn't accept that. She goes and she writes all the sins, so to speak, or how Elokar's wife, the queen, is not the ideals, and it just causes mayhem. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of trouble back in the homeland, and this is going to cause a lot of issues for the guys on the Shattered Plains. Like, they're going to know if there's an uprising, they're going to have to return, and they're going to have to put that uprising down. What does that mean for the Shattered Plains? I would guess that Dalinar and his squad go out to try and defeat the Parshendi, and maybe everybody else retreats at that moment back to the homeland to try and fix these rebels. I mean, that's an option for us now. The other interlude is Eshonai, and Eshonai is realizing that her sister is evil, is truly evil, is enjoying herself way too much, and she's also suspicious that maybe her sister and some others had storm form before. I've been trying to mull over this. I don't know how that would happen. I also am a bit confused as to like what Voidbringers are exactly, because on our side, and I say our side as if like the Heralds, Knights Radiant, our new Radiants here, I don't know if the setup is the same on the other side of things. I don't know if they have a version of their own Heralds. I think that would be the true Voidbringers themselves. But yeah, I'm not sure how that links up. So I don't know if her sister could be like a true Voidbringer in a sense. But yeah, I don't even really know exactly what I'm trying to say, but I don't know what their hierarchy is on the other side. Could she be something more, or could she just be an evil character? How could they have had Stormform before? I don't really know. I don't have any good ideas, but it's setting up nicely for Eshonai to flip sides back to our side when someone gives her the opportunity, and maybe she becomes the first Parshendi Radiant. I would guess that's going to happen in the future, considering how of an important character she's becoming. And it's very, very clear that her sister is potentially going to be one of the main villains moving forwards if she makes it out at the end of this book. And more on the other side, Odium's side, right? I mean, Odium must have a champion. Like, Dalinar was getting visions from the Almighty, and I don't think Dalinar is the Almighty's champion, but it was mentioned in the very first flashback or prologue of the Way of Kings that an option, if the war is going wrong, is that champion versus champion can go down. Like, that can happen. I mean, maybe she's been chosen as Odium's champion. Maybe she's receiving visions, and that's how she knew how to go and get Stormform, but she wanted her sister to figure it out herself because she was told by Odium. You know, Odium must have a champion, and I'm not saying this woman's definitely it, or this Parshendi is definitely it, but there must be more than just hoping that the Parshendi get those negative Sprens inside of them and grab Stormform. So there's something going on there. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. There'll be another one coming out on Sunday. It's nice to speak with you guys midweek. I wish I could do 2 videos a week if I had the time. If you're enjoying my channel, please like and subscribe. You can also become a member. We have a membership where you get cool badges just to show that you're supporting the channel. And then we also have a membership where you can see the videos as they come out rather than having to wait for their release date. I will see you on the next video. Thank you very much.